I'm Ronan, that's Wadsworth. Welcome to Now ZE HIR. Ronan, you say, you're wearing the exact same clothes as last week. You, my friend, are very perceptive. I am in fact recording this on the exact same day as last week's episode, because next Sunday, when I would usually be recording this, I will be at C2E2, the Chicago Comics and Entertainment Expo. See, it's 2 C's and 2 E's. C2E2. For the first time, I've actually never been to C2E2 despite having lived in the Chicago area for over a decade. And because this is the first convention I'm going to be going to this year, I thought this would be a fantastic time to talk about con life. Conventions are a really interesting thing because for the people who go to them and who get involved and go regularly, there are such an integral, important part of our lives. For other people who don't go, even those who are relatively pop culture savvy, they don't tend to know a whole lot about them. Basically, they tend to know as much as pop culture itself tells them about conventions, which are generally that they're full of nerds wearing costumes, and that people get into arguments about the finer points of their favorite TV shows, comic books, movies, etc. All of that is pretty much true. Although I have seen more than one person comment that they wish as many people wore costumes to conventions as it seems to on television, because costuming and cosplay is awesome, and costumes look way more impressive on camera. It wouldn't look quite the same on television if they were just showing a hall full of people walking around in jeans and t-shirts. But that's sort of quibbling. Nerds, costumes, arguing about minute details in our favorite pop culture, basically true. So how does something like that become such an integral and important part of our lives? Is something that people who sort of live outside of that world might not understand. In some ways, it does come down to those arguments or those debates. It can be fun to discuss and debate things about your fandoms, the same way it can be fun to debate things about sports teams or politicians. Okay, maybe politicians isn't such a great example this year, but you get the point. Classic example. Favorite doctors in Doctor Who. One of the first things anyone will ask you if they find out you're a Doctor Who fan, and they are too. Who is your doctor? And then, if yours is different from theirs, the debate starts. And it's one we've all had a dozen times at least. I don't even know if I could count the number of times I've had that conversation. But it's still fun. My doctor is 11, by the way. Followed very closely by 8, and I also have a great appreciation for 6. Let the discussion begin. And that is just one manifestation of the greater point, I think, which is the fact that I can walk into a space and know that the people here speak my language. Oh man, yesterday I found the best coffee shop AU/fic. If you understand what that meant, you're one of my people. And I know that I have a greater probability of running into my people in one of these spaces. The story that I love to tell, and I'm willing to bet that if you ask anyone who is really into the con life, they'd have a similar story of their own. I actually really didn't start going to conventions until 2013. And I say really going because I went to a teeny tiny anime con back in high school, and I went to maybe 1 or 2 Pokemon conventions back in the same time frame. But it's only in the last few years that I've made a habit of going and going regularly. There was a while where I wasn't going just because I felt as if I wasn't wearing a costume, there wasn't really a point. But that's just me. Again, costumes not required. Even though it would be awesome if lots and lots of people were in costume. But I really started going in 2013, in part to promote Time Crash, to promote my band. One of the first conventions I went to, although it wasn't the very first, was Chicago Comic-Con. I went as the 10th Doctor, the David Tennant Doctor, carrying around our guitar, which we called the Guitardis, all day, and just basking in that feeling of shared community and shared language. And I didn't realize how much of an effect it was having on me until that night. Quick sidebar for people who may not be familiar. Conventions, usually during the daytime, there's a vendor room and there are panels. And you walk around and you chat with people and you buy stuff. At night, events continue, but they generally take on a more party atmosphere. And that's what happened. There was a dance party. A dance party that did, in fact, have loads of people in costume. I remember there was this really great Loki. There was a guy in a Jedi costume that had, the light up lightsaber that he was swinging around while he was dancing. And there's me as the 10th Doctor. And the culminating moment for me came when Rihanna's Where Have You Been started playing. And in that song, all the joy and the feeling of community that I had been experiencing the entire day just manifested itself through the lyrics. Where have you been all my life? I knew right there that I had found my place, or at the very least, one of my places. Somewhere I could call home. So that's my story. And that's why I'm recording this now, so that next week I can be hanging out at C2E2 with my friends and just enjoying that community and that shared language. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'm Ronan. That's Wadsworth. Always be changing.